I love those t-shirts, by the way.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Okay. So, I'm going to talk to y'all today about time.
Oh.
So, if I was to ask y'all what your typical day looks like, what would you say? Or better, could you describe it in 3 words or less?
I don't know. I can describe it more. Busy.
Anybody else?
Active.
It's different each day, so different.
Those 3 words.
Always something new. This is true. So, what would be the main things that prioritize your day? More or less, what is the main consumption? What is the main thing that consumes your day?
You mean that takes the most time?
That, yeah, that maybe takes the most time, that
Or are you talking
that
about
just
priorities?
seems, well, not necessarily what it should be, what the priorities like, but what takes most of your focus? Like, would it be work, kids, resting, things like that? Like, what would be the biggest thing that seems to consume the most of your day?
Mine would be work.
Praying while I work.
Oh, look at her. She's going to be different.
Wait, what did you say?
Praying while I work.
Oh.
Okay. So, these are y'all's answers. Here's y'all's.
If I need to stand up back.
So this is what my typical day looks like. 5 o'clock, my first alarm goes off. 5:10, my second alarm goes off. 5:15, I finally drag myself out of bed. 5:20, I get in the shower. Between 5:50 and 6:10, I'm cooking my breakfast and I'm packing my lunch. 6:30, then I finally get to go finish my hair and get dressed. I get that done about 6:40, and that's when I make my drinks. I have 2 drinks that I make every day. I have a thing of water and 1 of soda. And then 6:45, water my plants. 6:50, 6:55, that's when I leave for work. I'm at work at 7:15 every morning, Monday through Friday, until whenever, just whenever I get off. Usually somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock. Monday nights, 7 o'clock, going deeper. Wednesday nights, 6:30, women's Bible study. The rest of the days, who knows? So, my days, kind of crazy. Normally. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is time and what we do with it. So, Webster defines time as the measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. It is an appointed, fixed, or customary moment or hour for something to happen, begin, or end. It is also an opportune or suitable moment. A division of geologic chronology, or a moment, hour, day, or year as indicated by a clock or calendar. Time is also finite as contrasted with infinite duration. So, there were many more explanations in there as well, so I could go on, but we get the idea. Time has many different meanings and many different descriptions for everyone. But in the Bible, time is viewed both as an historical framework and a theological concept. So time is seen as a period within eternity, beginning with creation and ending with the second coming of Christ. This is our concept of time. You look at the Bible, it establishes a timeline for creation, the fall of humanity, the covenant with Abraham, the Exodus, the coming of the Messiah. This historical timeline highlights God's active involvement in human history. The New Testament highlights this concept of time known as chronos. So this is common time, the time that we can measure out in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. So we're going to look at some examples of this concept of time. Because we look at the world today, and it's so fast-paced. It's everything about life right now tells us that we're just supposed to go, go, go. And that's what we do. We fill our days with so many things, with work, with shopping, with all the activities that the kids have, running here or there, taking care of our homes and families. That keeps us extremely busy. And before we know it, our days are so full that many times we don't even have time to sit down and eat. So we do that on the run too. We'll run through a drive-thru, eat in the car while we're going to whatever's next. And while a lot of this stuff is good, wonderful things, necessary things, it can also be a major distraction from the best thing, which is God. So as we look at everything that's listed, that we listed on this, the timeline that I showed of my day, where is God? Where did he fit in any of that? Now, Brenda did bring it up, praying while she works, and that's wonderful. That is wonderful. For a lot of people, work gets hectic enough that you kind of just, it slips to the wayside. So, except for when you just finally go kind of nuts and have to stop and go, okay, wait, God, fix it please real quick before I say something that I'm not supposed to. But how much time do we truly give during our days? Like sometimes and because I know this is me. Like sometimes my day is filled with so much that I kind of lose sight, and I don't think to stop long enough and go, okay, thank you, God, or help me get through this, or anything else. And a lot of times we can come to a point where we feel like our relationship with God becomes a little stagnant. We allow life just to kind of take over our thoughts and our practices so much that we no longer actively pursue Christ. A lot of times, the only time that a lot of people carve out for Him is church on Sunday mornings. We get so busy that we even begin to start to lose our joy. So if we look close, we see that the Bible gives us specific instructions on the use of our time. Proverbs 27:1 tells us that we do not know what tomorrow holds. James 4:14 reminds us that we're only here for a little while. And Psalms 90:12 is a request to God to teach us to number our days. Now these all tell us that we do not need to waste the time that we're given on this earth. In fact, the Bible encourages us to make the most of our time and to be wise in how we use it. That's from Ephesians 5:15 through 16 and Colossians 4:5. So, in school, my youngest son, he got involved in everything. He played football, he ran cross country, he played in the band, he ran track, he played baseball, and he was on the powerlifting team. He stayed so busy all the time. He was constantly on the move. He was out the door at 5:15 in the mornings for practice, came home, took a shower, and right back out the door for the regular school day. And then there was practice after school. Then there's the games on Friday nights, the cross country meets on Saturday mornings, the track meets, powerlifting meets. And at that age, being a teenager, it's easy to stay busy. But our bodies still need rest. And for John, whenever he couldn't handle anymore, whenever his body said that we're done, he got physically ill. And it would cause him to miss a day or two of school. But that was his body telling him, you need to stop and you need to slow down for a minute. And that's what he needed to do. He needed that time to just slow down and rest. Now today, he still stays super busy with his family, his ministry. He is a youth pastor and he's part of the worship team. He is an 8th grade history teacher. He is football coach, baseball coach, kind of an everything coach. So he's still in the same things he was doing in school. But now he's in a point where he's beginning to see the downside of being busy all the time. He misses out on things. The biggest thing being just able to spend the time with his wife and his kids. So, last night at the football game in Muleshoe, as the football team was coming out on the field and the coaches were coming up, so his job is to sit up in the press box. And we're in the stands, and he comes running up the stairs, and the only time he got to say hi to me or to his kids or his wife was just that quick second to stop, give them a hug, hi, I love you, and then up the stairs to the press box. And I'll watch my kids sit there and cry. My grandbabies, because Daddy didn't get to stop. Daddy didn't get to sit with them. And they wanted to go up the stairs with Daddy. I want to go up there. But they can't. So, and he sees that. And he's beginning to really see. So, you know, and of course then with the weather in the game. Well, we went home, and by the time that he gets home, those kids are fast asleep. And then this morning, he's up and out the door because we've got to go watch film. We've got to do this, you know, this is the coach's job. And so he's up and out the door before they ever even get up. And he loses half the day by the time he comes home. So he sees it. And that's something that he's starting to learn, is that we need to figure out how to slow down. So now we're going to look. So in Luke 10, 38 through 42, this is where we see the story of Martha and Mary and Jesus' visit to them. So we know the story. While Jesus was there, Martha, she's busy trying to do everything, serve all of the guests, make sure everything's done and perfect, and, you know, because this is what you do. And Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus. And she's listening to his teachings. Martha, she's not happy because her sister's not helping. And she asks Jesus, she says, tell her to come help. But he does not do this. Instead, he tells Martha that she's anxious about many things, while Mary is taking the time to enjoy the company. He did acknowledge that Martha's feelings were very real, and he did not take away from them. But he also acknowledged that what Mary chose to do was just as important. His response validated both actions, making them both important, because service is good, but sometimes we get so bogged down with serving that we forget we also need to stop and worship. So somewhere we need to learn to balance our time so that we can be free to stop and enjoy the rest. So now we're going to go just a little bit deeper. And we're going to look at the second concept of time that the New Testament highlights. This concept of time is called kairos. So this is God's appointed time. This concept of time is characterized by a time of significance or importance, or a season in which God's plan is revealed. So Jeremiah 29:11, we all know, it clearly tells us God has a plan for us. And it also tells us what that plan looks like. It's a good plan, it's to prosper us, it's never to harm us. But what do we know about God's timing? It's not the same as ours. It is not our timing. Isaiah 55, 8 and 9 tells us his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. It also tells us that his ways are higher than ours. And then Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8 tells us that there is a time for everything. So, have you ever just really paid real close attention to the timing of different things in your life? Like how some things just happen at just that right moment. Maybe you've tried planning something like a vacation or a family get together or whatever it might be, just anything, and it just didn't really seem to want to work out like you're wanting to plan it. Nothing wanted to come together right. And then all of a sudden, when you've just about given up and decided, okay, this is not going to work because it's not happening the way I want it to, everything just all of a sudden comes together perfectly at just that right moment. See, we try to plan things, but God establishes our steps. That's from Proverbs 16:9. And so I think sometimes God even will take our busyness and maybe our procrastination, because if anybody else is like me, I procrastinate about things. I think he'll even take that and use it to show us exactly how good his time is. So you two probably heard me talk about this description before, but I was given a Everyday with Jesus Bible. It's a year in the Bible, so it begins, and it's a devotional Bible, so it gives me my daily readings, and then at the end of it, there are devotional questions so that I can dig a little deeper and get into that. And I was so excited when I got it, because I was like, I always wanted to do that. I just never had a real clear plan. And I got started. I got going really good, and and then all of a sudden, I got busy and I skipped a day. And then I skipped another day. And then another day. And before long, I hadn't picked it up in a couple of weeks. I knew I needed to, but I just kept finding excuses. I got busy. I was tired. Work was really hard. I just want to sit here and rest. I just don't want to do anything. I just want to sit here. So there's my procrastination. I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow didn't get there. It never came. It just sat there. And then I just kind of felt this little, I really do need to pick this back up again. So I picked it up and I opened it and I started exactly where I left off. And when I did, I was just getting into the book of Exodus. Funny enough, in our women's Bible study on Wednesday nights, we were studying the book of Exodus. I went, well, okay, this is going to be fun. So, while I was doing that at home, we were doing that on Wednesday nights, just so happens that it was April. So, without realizing exactly what had happened, I was studying God establishing Passover during the Passover season. With my study at home, with Leanne's Bible study, every bit of it lined up exactly perfect. So he took my procrastination and my excuses, and he showed me just how good his timing could be. Because I chose to stop doing my Bible study, but then he nudged me at just that right moment for his purpose, because then I was able to study on my own and with a group of women and actually see so much better the significance and the importance of the Passover season to us. Also happens that we have a Seder meal. Going Deeper, Hub for Hope, we do the Seder meal every year. And that happened at just that exact time too. So all three studies lined up together so that I was able to see it for exactly what it was. I was able to really take in the full significance of it. So, where we may choose to waste time and not give God our full attention like we should, He's always going to make things work in His time, because His time's always perfect. And sometimes He might need us to just wait a minute, and then that way we know it's Him. There is no doubt in our minds that He's the one that's doing something. So we look, even Jesus waited before He did some things. So we see in John chapter 11 the story of Lazarus and his death. So in verse 3, that's where we see that that Jesus gets word of Lazarus' illness. But He didn't go immediately. He stayed where He was for 2 more days. And in verse 4, He says that Lazarus' illness would not end in death, but instead it would be for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. So as we read the first part of that story, some might wonder, why did He wait? Why did He choose to wait? We know He can heal. We know that He very easily could have kept Lazarus from dying. In fact, and you get down to verse 21, Martha tells Jesus this very thing. For some, the thought might be that, well, Jesus wasn't really all that concerned. But we know that's false, because John repeats that Jesus loved Lazarus 3 different times. In verse 3, in verse 5, and in verse 35. And if I've learned anything from any of the Bible studies that I've done and listening to anybody, if anything that God says that is of great importance, that He really wants you to know, He repeats. So we know it was very important for us to understand and know that Jesus loved Lazarus. But through this story, we see that God's timing is perfect, because He delayed going to Judea so that He could reveal the greater miracle. He needed everyone to see that miracle so they would begin to understand what was about to happen. So I want to conclude with this. In life, we are restricted by the influence of times and changes over which we have little or no control. God, however, has an eternal plan that includes the purposes and activities of everyone on earth. If we lead our lives according to His purpose and avoid activities that are not of Him, the Holy Spirit will work in and through us to accomplish God's perfect plan for us. No matter what changes occur, whether joyous or difficult, we will fulfill His plan for us in His perfect timing, as long as we keep trusting Him with the control of our lives and our circumstances. We need to realize that time truly is a gift from God, so we should not waste it. We need to find ways to make spending time with God a priority, and we have to be diligent in our time with Him, or rather in making time for Him, so that we may enjoy a life abundant in Him. Proverbs 21:5.
That was excellent.